I don't think many organisations or many leaders in organisations could really tell the difference between a group or a team. Yeah, but the team itself is an entity. You've got the people and they're their own entities, but the team is an entity itself. And rarely ever seen organisations really appreciate that team entity, that additional thing. In the same way, in the previous episode, you mentioned around that feeling of loss for a product person when the product no longer exists. They have a relationship with this entity which you can't see, and oftentimes you can't hold, but it exists and you know it exists. And I think the team entity is another one. And I don't think that many organisations have ever taken that seriously.
Welcome to the Product Agility Podcast, the missing link between Agile and product. The purpose of this podcast is to share practical tips, strategies and stories from world-class thought leaders and practitioners. Why, I hear you ask? Well, I want to increase your knowledge and your motivation to experiment so that together we can create ever more successful products. My name is Ben Maynard and I'm your host. What has driven me for the last decade to bridge the gap between agility and product is a deep-rooted belief that people and products evolving together can achieve mutual excellence.
And in the final episode of Geoff Watts, this is number 3 of 3, we broach a topic which not enough people talk about. What on earth is team coaching and professional team coaching, and how does this relate to a product agility environment? We explore the dynamics of working as a successful team and the role of an agile coach or scrum master. What exactly is it to increasing team performance? Now get your pen and paper handy. As always, there's going to be some gold in this episode. It's a short one, so get yourself a cup of tea, hot drink of your preference. I am not fussy. Sit back and enjoy the episode.
Hello everyone. We're here again. Me and Geoff Watts on episode 3 of 3. We have spoken about Agile certifications and the general Agile certification industry and how the Agile Mastery Institute is doing something about the commoditization of the certificate market within the Agile world. We spoke about product mastery, and particularly one of the key characteristics that separates a good from a great product leader. And today, in our third and final conversation, we are going to be exploring team mastery, because this is a topic which I'm super interested in. Geoff, welcome back. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
And let's get straight into it. And we are not time rich. Team mastery pathway. What was your inspiration or drive for creating this as a separate avenue, as a separate pathway?
Yeah, largely, I think teams have been rather neglected in Agile training and Agile support. What I have seen in the past is usually they all get sent on a CSM class, and the vast majority of them aren't going to be Scrum Masters, but it's an opportunity to learn the basics of Scrum together, which is a good thing, but it's the basics because it's the lowest common denominator, something that all of the individuals in a Scrum team have in common, rather than actually the specifics of being part of an Agile team. So I think they've been neglected, and in a way, that is, when I step back and think about it, I think that's completely bizarre, because when you look at numbers, they make up the vast majority of an Agile team. You got one product owner, one Scrum Master, and let's say 7 Agile team members. Then why are you neglecting the vast majority of people? And teams, cross-functional teams, are, to me, the value driver of the modern organization. It's not about functional specialization. It's about breaking down those traditional barriers, the status quo, the hierarchies, the functional silos, and the experts, right, and into team players, into people who are going to put the team above their functional area of expertise. And all of the soft skills that go into that, being able to be a good team member, to be able to hold each other to account, to be able to give and receive good feedback, to be able to take initiative and take accountability and create psychological safety, and all of those elements that are required above and beyond the functional requirements of delivery of actual functionality. And the closest that anyone's ever tried to come to that is a certified Scrum developer, which when you think about it, it's technical, it's software, and not all Scrum teams are software, and not all of them are going to be writing code.
I would agree that they've been neglected. I think grossly neglected. I don't think many organisations or many leaders in organisations could really tell the difference between a group or a team a lot of the time. And I think that, in my opinion, the team itself is an entity. You've got the people and they're their own entities, but the team is an entity itself. And I've rarely ever seen organisations really appreciate that team entity, that additional thing. In the same way in the previous episode, you mentioned around that feeling of loss for a product person when the product no longer exists. They have a relationship with this entity, which you can't see, and you maybe oftentimes you can't hold, but it exists and you know it exists. And I think the team entity is another one. And I don't think that many organizations have ever taken that seriously, because rarely do organizations reward the entity. They reward the individuals and they manage individuals, but you rarely see anyone managing, rewarding, shepherding or coaching the entity. And I think for me, this is what I think that things like your team mastery pathway and team coaching, I think that's what it brings. And I think that's what Agile coaching and Scrum Mastery should have always been about.
Yeah, people out there that have tried to do something within the parameters that are there. So I know, for example, there are a lot of people out there that have run, for example, 3-day CSM classes because that was the only real certification out there that would actually go above and beyond and talk about team dynamics. Or they would create a team facilitation workshop, so they would effectively be teaching Scrum Masters or team coaches how to coach an Agile team. So one step removed. Personally, I think that this is around, Scrum Masters can come along to this pathway and that would be useful to them. It would be great to have in their toolbox, but this is more directed at the actual teams themselves, learning together, learning those skills of transparency, conflict, feedback, quality, those kinds of things together themselves.
So this is then team coaching in a way, isn't it? If you're getting the team members along and it's helping them figure out how to work as a team.
Yeah.
Then this is you're getting whole teams onto this pathway then, and then taking them through a journey.
Yeah. Largely this is very much in-house. So an actual team taking a couple of days out or taking a day out here and committing to regular coaching sessions where they can reflect and just work out not just what they're building and not just like a retrospective, but actually focused on different aspects of team mastery and thinking about the concept of being a team and becoming better and better at it and being able to take team principles, values, milestones out into their own context.
So what would you say at a team level are some of the most common pitfalls people haven't been able to cross?
So there are 5 main characteristics that I build this pathway around, and they're driven from I don't know how many teams that I've seen and been part of over the years. And while every team's unique, no getting away from that, but equally there are some pretty consistent commonalities in the really good teams that I've seen and the few great teams that I've seen. And so what I've distilled it down to is self-management. Okay, so great teams are able to manage themselves. They don't look outside the team to be able to decide work, to decide working practices, to make decisions, to make sure that we're including people, that we can manage tension, we can diverge and come up with different ideas before actually converging. They don't look for somebody else to do that. They're capable of doing that. And that's a journey, it's a process, and all the other buzzwords that come along with that. But they work towards and they become more and more self-managing over time. They also take quality seriously. How do we make sure that we are not just doing the right things, but doing it right? And not just at an individual level, but being able to hold each other to account on quality and push each other on quality and have team levels of quality. And as a team, be able to say at the end of this sprint or the end of this, when a feature is deployed, we are proud of this. We are happy to put our individual. I was always taught, put your name and mobile number on anything you release because you should be proud of it. And if there's a problem with it, then it's accountable. People can contact you. So there's quality, there's unity, the ability to actually feel part of something bigger, that actually we care about each other. I'm not saying that we are going to be best friends and crying on each other's shoulders necessarily, but actually we do care about the success of our teammates and the team overall. We are united. That is a massively common characteristic. These teams are also audacious. They take risks. They go for it. They push boundaries. They don't just sit back and accept the status quo. They will try different things. And above all else, delivery. Delivery is a hallmark of every great team that I've seen or been part of. They take pride in actually getting stuff done, meaningful stuff done, not just keeping busy, but actually delivering something of meaning and value. That's what we build the course around. and we look at different milestones that teams either have achieved with regards to those characteristics or could proactively work towards. And a lot of the challenges that come along with working towards those things, the risks that might be associated with taking a high quality approach, for example, or building up the unity amongst the team members, but also the potential benefits of doing so and rituals that they might be able to adopt to instill those habits over time.
So that was teamwork, quality, unity, audacity, and delivery.
So I call it self-management because then it spells out squad.
Yeah. Nice. Genius. What came first?
So it was a case of looking at all of the different characteristics. So I genuinely pulled up some photographs of a lot of the teams that I've worked with over the past and started brainstorming what was good about that team, looked for what was in common. And then I've got this sort of tradition almost of forming an acronym. So my Scrum Masters are retrained, my product owners are driven, and so on. If I was going to be really harsh on myself, I would say I force fit the word audacity. Because bravery is natural to me. But yeah, I thought squad is a really cool thing. I mean, self-management, that's from a Scrum perspective, that's written in there. Quality is, for me at least, and delivery, they were natural. Unity, I could have used lots of different synonyms, but it fit quite nicely. And then it was just a case of, I've got S, Q, U, and D. That's almost squad. Right. So I just changed bravery to audacity. I've got something really nice.
Brilliant. From taking any tips away, I should try and generate some acronyms. I like that. When you mentioned unity, to me sounded similar to identity in some respects. Out of those different areas of squad, where is something like team purpose? So the reason above delivery, why you exist, like where is purpose covered in that?
Yeah, so one of the first milestones within the unity characteristics. So imagine these are the 5 almost epics of great teamwork. And I've got 10 milestones that teams typically tend to hit or work towards within those categories along their journey to greatness. And today we came up with our team identity is one of those milestones. And that's part of why do we exist as a team? Who are we as a team? What do we stand for as a team? What will we not stand for as a team? What do we expect of one another as team members within this identity? So it absolutely is one of the big things. And certainly in the UK and the US, I know there's this idea of the apprentice, where Alan Sugar gets a team and these people, and you have to go and form a team and come up with a team name, and it's usually Team Phoenix, just some pathetic random team generator on Google or whatever, they come up with a team name. It's a lot more than just a team name. A team name is part of it because it's part of an identity, but quite often these team members will have they'll have a charter. In the little milestone illustration that I've created, they've got their own t-shirts. That's quite a common thing. T-shirts, team mugs, team logos, team merch, team swag. But more important than that, they've got like team values, team rules, team working agreements. And that sense of this is who we are as a team. When we come up against something difficult, this is how we handle it.
And then within that piece, is that how they would, his questions along the lines of how do you want to be perceived by people external to the team? Is that kind of broader? And so then with the boundaries of all of this, it's how they work together as an entity and how they exist as an entity. There's some stuff then around like stakeholders in the broader system as well then?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're going to be self-managing, you can't rely on everybody else to manage all of your relationships. So I'll work with Agile leaders, and these could be product leaders, these could be organizational leaders, these could be servant leaders, but trying to create that sense of autonomy and confidence. I believe self-management is a combination of 3 factors. First of all, confidence. So they are confident to be able to manage themselves, but there's no point having confidence if you're not competent. Right. And equally, there's no point being competent if you don't have the confidence to use that competence. So skills, and I'm not just talking about technical skills here, I'm talking about team management skills, people skills, empathy, rapport, that kind of thing. So confidence, competence, and then conditions. So how can we create the conditions where this team is more capable and confident to manage themselves? And part of that will be building up the relationships with people outside of the team. And Scrum typically stopped about the point where the Scrum Master protects the team from external stakeholders. And people often think about the Scrum Master as someone who is shielding the team from outside influences. But the best Scrum Masters actually say, no, let's break those barriers down, but let's teach everybody how to interact with one another healthily, helpfully, constructively. And Those self-managing teams, as they get more self-managing, will be able to build up those relationships with people outside of the team as well as inside the team.
And do you cover performance? What does performance mean to the team, and then what does performance then mean to the broader organisation as well?
Yeah, so there's delivery, right? So delivery is we deliver stuff, and not just we keep ourselves busy. It's meaningful, it's valuable. You could look at it almost as a sort of continuum, and good teams will take the value that is defined and work out ways of delivering that value. And that's a good thing, all right? But the more and more they get involved with things, the more and more aware they become of the context and the strategy and working directly with people, the more educated decisions they can make about actually creating and identifying value. But that's at the team level. So look, as a team, the most important thing is that we deliver value. Then the question is, how can I, as an individual, contribute towards that team value while also making sure that I don't sacrifice too much of my own ambitions, my own goals, my own motivators? Because being part of a team will require me as an individual to sacrifice a little bit of my own selfishness. Right? And I don't think we should ignore that fact. A lot of people do, but hopefully I should, as an individual, get a lot more benefit for me personally by being part of this team, whether it be learning, whether it be support, whether it be social and community, whether it be being able to achieve more than the sum of the parts, whatever it is. I should get more from being part of this team than I personally have to sacrifice by being part of this team. And having that conversation amongst team members, what do we expect of one another when it comes to performance? How are we going to mitigate potential conflicts of interest? How are we going to try and avoid a situation where I'm naturally incentivized to put myself above the team? We want to try and reduce those as much as possible. But yeah, having those conversations, I think, is crucial.
So Geoff, I think we're going to have to pull this one to a close. So I feel like we're just getting started on it. So maybe I'll ask you nicely if we can get you back in a little while to go deeper. And it'd be great to have an update at some point in the future as to how things are going, because you only launched this reasonably recently in the grand scale of things, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it myself informally for a while, but I only actually launched it formally less than a year ago.
And the best place for people to go is agilemasteryinstitute.com.
Yeah.
And of course, you're on social media here and there. So I'll pop in all the show notes, various links and Twitter handles, whatever it may be, so that people can find you and contact you or buy your books. I'll put some links in for your books as well, because they are well worth reading.
You've got this beautiful setup where you are very much in focus and your background is slightly blurred out, but I can tell from the color scheme, I can see one of them. So even without being able to see it in high definition, I can tell that you've got one of them on the shelf. So
they're up there. They're up there. So Geoff, thank you very much for your time, and thank you everyone for listening. I'm going to go and look for my bookshelves. Geoff, thank you very much, mate. Have a brilliant afternoon with your podcast.
Nice one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Geoff, for coming on for those 3 episodes. They were all brilliant, so thank you very much. And thank you everyone for listening. It's always a delight to get to talk to you at the end of an episode, even though I know that sometimes things get in the way and maybe we don't always get here, but I'm very happy that you do. Next up on the Product Agility podcast, we are going to be spending some time looking at product design and UX design with a dear friend of mine called Raymond. Raymond is a wonderful human being who I met at the Product Elevation conference in Dublin a year or so ago, and so it was a great pleasure that I welcome him on the podcast for a couple of episodes. So if you want to learn more about UX and product design, these episodes are just the tonic for you. So thank you once again for listening. My name is Ben Maynard, and this is the Product Agility Podcast.